For this project, I am using a super fine weight 1 cotton yarn and a 2.25 mm crochet hook. This is a beginner-friendly tutorial. I will take you through step-by-step how to do everything. The only thing that you need to know how to do is how to hold your yarn, how to create a slip knot, and how to chain. And I will take you through the rest of the stitches. So grab a cozy drink and let's begin the tutorial. We're going to create our oak leaf first. Let's start with creating a slip knot. And then I'm just going to slide that on my hook. We are going to chain 10. If you're a beginner, there is a few chains that I'm going to want you to mark with some stitch markers. And this is going to help you identify where we are. So the first one I want you to place is going to be the second chain from where the hook is. So here's the first chain. And then this is the second chain here. So I want you to just mark this loop on the right side, right there. And now, in the last stitch, I'm going to have you do the same thing in the very last chain. You're just going to grab the right loop and just put a stitch marker there. For the oak leaf, we are going to be working down this side of the foundation chain, and then we're going to turn, and then we're going to work down the other side. In order to get this really nice looking line that's going down your leaf, we are going to work this in a certain way. The way that we get that line is on the first side. So when you're looking at your chain, you have the front loops, which are these two loops right here. It looks like a V in the front. And then if you turn your chain around to the back, these bumps are called back bumps right here. So on the first side, we're going to work into the back bumps. And then when we get to the other side, we're going to be working into just one loop on the side. So we'll just be working into the right loops when we work on the other side. By not working into these loops right here on the left, that's what's going to give us that nice line down the middle. And I just really like that detail because I think it just makes it look a little bit more like a leaf. All right, so on the first stitch, we are going to be skipping one chain, and we're going to be working into the second chain from the hook. And then you're going to kind of turn this around because remember on this side, we're working into the back bumps. So if you turn this around like this, there's my first back bump right there. And then right by my stitch marker, that's my second back bump. That's what I'm going to work into first. We're going to make a single crochet into that stitch. So insert into that back bump right there, and then yarn over, pull through, bring up 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. And that is our first stitch. If you are a beginner, I would recommend marking that first stitch. That way when we get back around, you can easily identify where it is. Now we are going to make our next stitch into the same stitch that we just put the single crochet into. So make sure you look at this. So for me, it's right here. It's just, you can still see the back bump there. So we're going to insert a half double crochet into that. And to make a half double crochet, it's a step up from a single crochet, so we need to put a loop on our hook before we go into that stitch. So yarn over, and then insert into that same stitch, yarn over, and you'll pull up 3 loops. And yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. In the next 4 stitches, we are going to be inserting just 1 double crochet. So to make a double crochet, that is a step up from the half double crochet we just made. So we start the same way by putting a loop on our hook. And then you're looking for the next back bump right here. And you're going to yarn over, pull up 3 loops again. But this time, we're going to yarn over and just pull through 2 loops. And then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, let's make one of those again together. So yarn over, insert into the next back bump, yarn over, pull up 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now I need to make 2 more double crochets. And I'm just going into the next stitch. And then 1 more. Now we are going to create 3 half double crochets, and it's just going to be 1 in each stitch. So as a reminder for that, you're going to yarn over, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. Okay, now you should have 1 chain remaining, and it looks like this. So in our last chain, we are going to be inserting 6 half double crochets into the same chain. This is what's going to turn our leaf. So yarn over, and I am still working into the back bump. I'm gonna place 3 of them into the back bump. So 1, 2, 3. So now we're going to be turning, and now we're going to be working into where the stitch marker is. We are still in the same chain here, but we're just working on the other side of it. So you're going to insert a half double crochet right into that spot. And also, you have your tail here. We're going to carry that with us so that we can just weave it in as we go. So just take that yarn tail and just slide it on top of your hook and just kind of hold it here like this, and then yarn over and complete your half double crochet. And now you can remove the stitch marker if you'd like, and then we need to still place 2 more half double crochets into that stitch. So insert those and keep the yarn tail on top of your stitch. Here's what mine is looking like so far. So now we're just gonna do what we did on the other side, but in reverse. And we're also making sure that we're working into the correct loop. So if you ever get confused, you can always look at this stitch marker here and see which loop is marked, because as you can see, there's 2 loops here, and this is the one that's marked. So when you're looking at these loops here are going to be the ones that we're working into. Just keep in mind that you want to keep these ones here because that's going to be the little line that's going across our leaf. So just really make sure that you're working into the correct stitches. So now that we're working in reverse, we're going to make 3 half double crochets in the next 3 stitches, and that's 1 half double crochet in each stitch. And then I'm still carrying my yarn tail with me, and a way I like to do that is I just kind of put it behind the stitches that I'm about to work into. Now really look at this and make sure that you don't skip the next stitch because it can look a little bit hidden here. Let me show you this. So when you're looking at this here, you can see there is a stitch right here. It's a little bit hidden from all of these stitches, so make sure you don't skip that stitch. So go ahead and insert your half double crochet into that stitch. And then I'm going to make 2 more. And then also every so often, go ahead and pull on this tail to make sure it's not bunched up in the back. Now we make 4 half double crochets. So yarn over, insert into the next stitch, pull up 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so now you should be at your stitch marker right here. This is your last stitch that you have remaining. So I'm still carrying the tail with me, and we are going to insert a half double crochet into that last stitch. And then if you remember, we had inserted 2 stitches into that stitch previously. So now we're going to also insert a single crochet into the same stitch. And we can go ahead and remove our stitch marker. So that is the end of round 1, and here is what it looks like so far. And so you should have this line going down the middle here. Now, if you found that to be too complicated, you can always, instead of working into the back bump, you can just work into that left side and then work into the right side if that's easier for you. To start round 2, we are going to chain 1. And then in our first stitch here, we are going to insert a single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my stitch marker, and I'm going to place a single crochet into that stitch. And we are just working on top of normal stitches now. And go ahead and mark that first single crochet. And by the way, I am still carrying the tail with me so that I can weave it in even more. In the next stitch, we're going to insert a half double crochet. So find your next stitch. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the next stitches. So go ahead and insert a double crochet into the next stitch. And then a double crochet into the next stitch. At this point, I feel like my tail is weaved in enough through the project, so I'm just going to leave it out. In the next stitch, we're going to insert a double crochet and a triple crochet into the same stitch. And I will show you how to make a triple crochet. So go ahead and place a double crochet into the next stitch. And now into the same exact stitch there, we're going to insert our triple crochet. And it's basically just a double crochet, but with just an extra step. So we are going to put 2 loops on our hook before we insert into the stitch here. So go through the stitch, yarn over, and bring up 4 loops. And now it's just like a double crochet, but we're just doing more yarn overs. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And that's how you make a triple crochet. In the next stitch, we're going to insert another triple crochet. So go ahead and put 2 loops on your hook, insert into the next stitch, and then bring up 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the same exact stitch here. So right where our triple crochet was, insert your hook, yarn over, and you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to, and if you struggle with this, you can always just like pull this loop tight with your finger here, and then pull it through that loop. And that's how you make a slip stitch. In the next stitch, we are going to insert a single crochet. In the next stitch, a half double crochet. In the next stitch, a double crochet. And now in the next stitch, we're going to insert 2 double crochets. So put 2 double crochets into the same stitch. 1, 2. And now we are going to chain 2. And just like we did previously with the triple crochet, we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch. So insert into that same stitch and do a slip stitch. In the next stitch, we are just going to make a slip stitch. And now in the next stitch, this is going to be our last stitch for this side. We are going to put 3 stitches into that. So let's start with a half double crochet. And then we're going to insert a double crochet into the same stitch. And then in the same stitch still, we're going to insert a triple crochet. So that is our first half done. So now we're just going to do the exact same thing on this side, and we're just mirroring what we did over here. So we're going to do it backwards. So in the next stitch, we're going to insert these 3 stitches again. So start with your triple crochet. And then insert a double crochet. And then a half double crochet. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And then in the next stitch, we are going to slip stitch. And we're going to chain 2. And now we will insert 2 double crochets into that same stitch. In the next stitch, a double crochet. And then insert a half double crochet into the next stitch. And a single crochet into the next stitch. In the next stitch, we are going to slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 3. And then we're going to insert a triple crochet into the same stitch. In the next stitch, we are going to be inserting a triple crochet, and then we will put a double crochet into the same stitch. Now we're going to make a double crochet into the next stitch, another double crochet into the next stitch, a half double crochet into the next stitch, and a single crochet into the last stitch. Now when you're at the end here, you should have your stitch marker on the first single crochet, and then you'll see what looks like a stitch here, but this is just our chain 1 and it doesn't count as a stitch. So when we're all done, we're going to slip stitch to that first single crochet. So now we're going to go ahead and create our chain, and this chain is what's going to give us the length for our bookmark. So you can make your chain as long as you would like. I'm going to be chaining 50 for mine, and that comes out to be about 8 inches in length, which is how long I want my bookmarks to be. So go ahead and just create as many chains as you would like for your bookmark. I'm done creating my chain of 50 for my leaf here. And by the way, when I do measure this is what I'm aiming to be 8 inches right here. If you weaved in your end for your leaf as you went, like I did, then you can go ahead and cut that end off. We are all done with our leaf for now. So after you're done chaining, you're just gonna leave a little bit of a tail here. I wanna leave enough of a tail that I can kind of weave this into the acorn and tie it all up. And then I'm just going to pull this up with my hook and I'm gonna tighten this. So this is how my leaf is looking. It's so cute. And now we can set this aside because we are done with the leaf for right now. Now we're gonna work on the top part of the acorn. So that's gonna be this part. And we are going to make the little stem real quick first. To make the stem, you're going to create a slip knot. And now let's go ahead and chain 4. We are going to skip the first chain from the hook, and we're just going to create slip stitches in the next 3 chains. And I'm going to be working into the back bumps, which you should be familiar with now. So skip the first chain, and then in the second back bump, I'm going to insert a slip stitch. And then into the next one, insert a slip stitch. And then one more. Now I'm going to chain one. I'm going to cut my yarn. It doesn't need to be too long, just like this. Pull this up, and then just tighten this. And that is it for the stem. And now we are also going to set this aside. Now we're going to work on the top, and that is going to be worked in the round. So we need to make a magic ring. To make a magic ring, set your 2 fingers out like this. Place the yarn over your 2 fingers and then secure it with your thumb like this. This yarn coming from your skein is referred to as the working yarn. Go ahead and pull the working yarn around your 2 fingers. And then you're going to pull this behind the first piece that we did, just like this. And then I'm going to secure this with my other finger right here. We need to create a loop, and to do that, we're going to go under the first piece of yarn and then over the second piece of yarn. And we're going to be sliding that second piece of yarn under this, and we'll be rotating our hook to make a loop. So slide it under the first piece, over the second piece, grab that second piece of yarn and rotate your hook, just like this. If it gets really loose, that's totally fine. You can grab this working yarn with your fingers and you can just tighten this. So you want it to be a little bit tight. You don't want it to be too loose. You don't want it to be too tight. You want to be able to slide your hook through this easily. We're just going to grab this yarn right here. We're going to yarn over, and we're just pulling this through this loop. And there you go. You've created a magic ring. This is the tail of our magic ring. I am going to pull this, and it tightens our ring. I'm going to make this smaller because we don't need a giant loop to work into for this, unless you're working with bigger yarn. But since I'm working with really tiny yarn, I don't need a huge circle, and this makes it easier to work into. We're going to be creating 6 single crochets into the magic ring here. And when we're working into the magic ring, we are going to be working over the ring and the tail. It's very important that you also work with the tail. So when you insert into the magic ring, you should have both of them over your hook like this. If you leave the tail out and it's like this, then you're not going to be able to close your magic ring. So make sure they're both sitting over here. So my single crochets for the acorn are going to be a yarn under, yarn over single crochet. And that just gives a different appearance to your single crochets. So as you can see here, they kind of look like little X's. And I really like the way that these look. So I'm going to use that for the entire acorn. So I will show you how to do a yarn under, yarn over single crochet. Let's begin. Insert our hook. And remember, we're keeping the tail on top of our hook always. And then we're going to yarn under. So normally we would go like this and wrap the yarn around, but for yarn under, I'm kind of just bringing the hook over so that the yarn is now under my hook. And then pull up, and you should have 2 loops, and you can really grab onto your magic ring and really secure things because it's very finicky. And then yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. So let's do that together again. Insert into the magic ring, yarn under, pull up your loop. You should have 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through. Insert into the magic ring, yarn under, pull up 2 loops, yarn over. So there I've made 3 single crochets. I need 3 more because we are going to make 6 single crochets in total. Now I'm going to close my magic ring, but I'm not going to close it completely because I am going to be bringing the leaf and the stem through this, and it's a lot easier if it's not fully closed. So We will close it later, but for right now, just leave a little hole in the middle here. Now, sometimes I weave in my tail as I'm going, but for this project, I do not want to do that. So now leave your tail out. We're just going to leave it here now. We don't want to work over it because we need it so that we can close the hole later. To close our rounds, we are going to insert our hook into the first single crochet, and then we're going to yarn over, pull through that stitch. We're just making a slit stitch, and then pull through the loop. And now we have closed our round. To begin our rounds, we are going to chain 1, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. All right, now I want to talk about the round here and how you can identify the stitches, because if this is your first time working in the round, it can be quite confusing. So if we look at this here, we kind of have a stitch coming up this way and a stitch coming up this way, and then we have our chain coming up here. So this is our slit stitch that we just made to close our round. And then this right here is our first stitch of the round. So we have our chain 1, and then we have our slit stitch. So we're not going to be working into these. So just make sure you can identify where those are. So that makes this right here the very last stitch. And if you really need to, and this is your first time working in a round, or you don't have that much experience working in the round, you may want to mark the last stitch. It might be helpful for you when you're working around to know exactly where that is. So with that in mind, we are going to work into that first stitch there. On round 2, we are going to be increasing in every stitch around. Increasing means that we're going to insert 2 single crochets instead of 1. And at the end of this round, we will have 12 stitches because we're starting with 6 right now and we want to double that. So into the first stitch, and I'm still making my yarn under, and then yarn over single crochets. So there's my first single crochet, and then mark that first single crochet with a stitch marker so that you know exactly where it is and you don't get confused by the chain 1 and the slit stitch. Now in the same exact stitch, we're going to insert another single crochet because we are going to increase. So that is our first increase. In the next stitch, you're going to increase by placing 2 single crochets. And then in the next stitch, 2 single crochets. And you're just doing this all the way around your circle. So this is what it looks like at the end because I have my slit stitch here in my chain 1, and I don't want to work into those. And then count your stitches. Make sure that you have 12 stitches, and if you do, you are good. Now we're going to close our round in the same way by slit stitching to the first single crochet and then chaining 1, and that is how we end and begin each round. On round 3, our pattern is going to be single crochet and then an increase. So we just do single crochet and then increase, and we alternate that all the way around. So by the end of this round, we should have 18 stitches. In the first stitch, we are just going to make 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to mark the first stitch. In the next stitch, I'm placing an increase. In the next stitch, a single crochet, and in the next stitch, an increase. So you'll repeat that pattern a total of 6 times around. And now we're going to close our round at the end in the same way by slit stitching to the first single crochet and then chaining 1. Round 4 is going to be a little bit different. We want to make this pattern no-sew. This step is going to seem a little bit weird, but we're doing it so that we can just connect the next color right to this round 4 that we're about to do. And it makes it really nice and easy, and you don't have to sew anything together. So I really like doing this. So on our very first stitch here, which is right here, I want you to go ahead and mark the back loop with the stitch marker. So if we're looking at our stitches here, this right here is the front loop. And the one that is further away from us, right here, this is the back loop. We're going to mark that back loop with the stitch marker, and I just want you to keep that stitch marker there. That's just to show us when we do go to connect the next color, exactly where to connect to. So in this round, we're going to just work single crochets in every stitch around, but we're going to only do it into the front loop only. So this stitch that's facing us is where we're going to insert. So just put a single crochet into that front loop only. And then you can still mark your first single crochet here. So right into the front loop, I'm just inserting each single crochet into that. We're not increasing or anything on this round. We want this to start to go this way. So you should have 18 stitches by the end. Okay, I've reached the end, and as you can see, the project now curling upwards. You can just do this. It'll make it a little bit easier for the next round. But if you look at our project here, you should see this kind of circle going around the inside, which is exactly what we want, because eventually we will connect our next color and we're just going to work into those stitches. So go ahead and close your round just like we have been doing, and then chain 1. In the next round, we are just working this normally, and we're just working again a single crochet into every stitch around. It's just one single crochet. There's no increasing or anything. So you should still have 18 stitches by the end of this round. Okay, now since we are done with our top, I'm not going to slip stitch to the first stitch because I want to do an invisible join. But if you would like, you can slip stitch to the first single crochet, chain 1, and fasten off. I'm just going to show you a way that makes it look a lot neater. So go ahead and lift up your hook and then cut your yarn. You just need a semi-long tail. I'm going to take my darning needle and place the tail on the darning needle. So we can go ahead and remove the stitch marker. What we're going to be doing is making basically a fake stitch on top of our first stitch, and it's just going to really blend in with the rest of the stitches. So go ahead and remove your stitch marker, and then in the second stitch, you're going to insert your needle in that second stitch and you're going to pull it away from you. Now I like to take this piece of yarn that we just pulled through. I kind of like to pull it up to make sure it's sitting on top of that first stitch. And I'm going to tighten it so that it looks pretty much like the other stitches as far as the length of it goes. And then into the last stitch, the one that we finished with, that our yarn is coming from right now, I'm going to insert into that back loop and I'm going to pull this through. And then I'm going to kind of tighten this. And again, I'm going to kind of take this and make sure that this yarn is sitting on top of that last stitch. So it looks like that. And now it really blends in with the rest of our stitches and gives us a really clean finish. Now I'm going to turn this inside out. I want to make sure this is really nice and secure, this little stitch that we just made. So I'm going to insert this into a nearby stitch that I can grab. And this is just going to secure it a little bit more. And then I'm going to grab another nearby stitch. I'm going to insert. And I'm going to be kind of creating this loop here. I'm going to grab it so I don't lose it and pull my yarn through. And then I'm going to insert back through the loop because I just want to make a little knot. Just like that. And now I'm going to work this yarn through some stitches. I just want to make it into the middle of the top here. So I'm trying to go past the loops from round 4. And this is just fine like this. It's past my circle here. I hope that makes sense. But that way this yarn string here, it's just going to go into the middle of our acorn and we don't have to worry about it. Now I'm going to turn this back around. Now it's time to connect our leaf and our stem in. I like to do it at this point before we do the rest of the acorn, because then all of the stuff that we're about to insert in here, we're going to have a bunch of yarn tails hanging down, and those are just going to go into our acorn so that we don't have to worry about them. I'm putting my yarn tail from my leaf onto my darning needle, and then I'm just going to bring the needle through that middle hole of the acorn, and I'm going to pull it through. Now I'm going to turn the acorn inside out, and I'm going to kind of pull this tail down just a little bit. I pretty much just have like 1 or 2 chains hanging in the middle here. And now I'm going to grab my tail from the magic ring, and I'm going to tighten it. And you do that by just pulling it. You can pull it really tightly. And then if you look on the other side, you should see that your hole is closed, and this helps secure this tail here. Now I'm going to put the leaf back onto my darning needle, and I'm going to insert it through the chain here. I'm just kind of trying to pierce it. And this is just to secure it more. And then I'm going to grab the leaf's tail and the magic ring tail, and I'm going to tie a knot to tie them together. And I'm just going to continue to make knots until I feel like it is secure enough. I think I'll make about 3 for mine. I'm going to pull on the tail here. It feels secure, so that is good. Now I'm going to flip this back. Now another important thing here is if we look at our acorn, we have our stitch marker here. This is going to be the back of our acorn. So when I go to insert the stem now, I'm making sure that my stem is going to be in front, right, like this. So I'm going to take one tail end of the stem, and with the front of the acorn facing me, I'm going to insert down between round 1 and 2, and I'm on the side here. Just like this, and then pull this through. And then grab the other end of your stem, and you may need to pull the other stem end down so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to take this end, and I'm just going to go down through the opposite side. Pull it through, and then I'm grabbing both yarn tails here. So that looks good. So I'm turning it around and going inside out again. And then I'm going to tightly tie these 2 tails together. And I'm going to tie several knots again, and there we go. And then I like to just pull on this, make sure it feels secure enough. If it doesn't, you could always weave these tail ends through the inside a little bit. So far for me, they've been pretty sturdy. You could also just glue these on the inside if you really wanted to. Okay, so now I am done with all of these tails. I don't want to cut them really short, but I do want them to be out of my way a little bit because they're going to get a little bit annoying at first. So I'm just going to trim them a little bit. So they're still pretty long here, but they won't be too much in my way. And now we are all good and attached here, and we're going to finish up our acorn. For the acorn body, I am going to create a slip knot and then just kind of set that aside for right this second. And now let's take our top and make it inside out for right now. Find your stitch marker that you had from round 4 of your top. This is where we're going to begin, and we are going to work this way. So insert your hook where the stitch marker is, and then place your slip knot on your hook. And it's usually a little bit easier to tighten this beforehand. But go ahead and tighten that slip knot, and then you're going to pull that knot through like this, and I'm going to chain 1, and that attaches my new color. So this is where the magic happens now, to where we don't have to sew at all, because we're just going to start making our acorn, and all of these ends are just going to go inside of it. For round 1, we are just going to make single crochets around, into all of these front loops. So in the first front loop, go ahead and make your first single crochet. And then if you'd like, you can go ahead and remove this stitch marker and you can stitch mark your first single crochet. So if at any point, once you get to the end, if you're like, did I go into all of the front loops? I'm not sure. I kind of like to count this round as I go. And we should have 18 single crochets in total. And that's how you'll know that you went into all of your front loops. So go ahead and just work around. And it can be a little bit tricky to insert into the front loops. They can be a little bit tight, but just jam your hook in there and make your front loops going all the way around. Or sorry, I think I said make your front loops. I meant make your single crochets into the front loops all the way around. Okay, so I'm at my last front loop. So this is what it looks like. So this is why I was saying it can get a little bit confusing here. But I counted as I was going and I see the last front loop right here. So like I said, you should have 18 of these by the end. And then we're just going to close our rounds in the same way by slip stitching to the first single crochet and then chain 1. So now we're just simply going to be creating single crochets in every stitch around until round 6. So for 5 more rounds here, just place a single crochet in every stitch. We're not increasing or decreasing or anything like that. So just repeat this same thing around for the next few rounds. I apologize for the change in the audio quality on the next 2 rounds. I made a mistake on my acorn with the decreasing, and I can show you that later, but I accidentally was just doing regular decreasing because I haven't worked on amigurumi in a while, that I totally forgot about invisible decreases. So I will show you how to do an invisible decrease, and I will show you the difference in how it looks on my other acorn and how it looks on this one. So I finished all of my single crochet rounds, and I've turned my acorn this way, and I've shoved all of my yarn tails on the inside so that they're not in my way. On this round, we are going to do the pattern of single crochet, decrease, and we're going to repeat that pattern 6 times. So go ahead and chain 1. And then just place a normal single crochet into the first stitch. So when you're decreasing, you're bringing 2 stitches and making them into 1. When you do an invisible decrease, you only work into the front loops of your stitch. And as a reminder, that is these loops right here. So insert your hook into the next stitch, into the front loop. And then, and this part can be a little bit tricky, but just pull your hook back and then insert into the next front loop on the next stitch, and then yarn under, go through the 2 loops, and you'll bring up 2 loops. We're just making a normal single crochet now at this point, just like that. So in the next stitch, just do a single crochet and then decrease. So go into the front loop, go into the next front loop, and then make a single crochet. And that is how you do an invisible decrease, and you're going to repeat single crochet, decrease around for a total of 6 times. Now we are going to stuff our acorn. So I'm just taking some polyfill. You can also just use scrap yarn or whatever you would like. And I like to spread this apart, and then I'm just going to slowly start stuffing the acorn. Okay, so I'm going to stuff it about this full. I might put a little bit more in at the end, but I'll just see how it's looking. On round 8, we're going to be decreasing the entire way around, and now this round can be a little bit tricky. So let's begin by chaining 1 and then making our first decrease. And then grab your stitch marker. But you're just going to make decreases like this, like I said, the whole way around. So at the end of this, we'll have only 6 stitches. Okay, after you have finished your stitches, you can slip stitch to the first stitch to close this. I think I am gonna put just a tiny bit more stuffing in here now. So since the hole is much smaller now, I'm just going to use a wooden chopstick, and I'm just gonna sort of shove this in there. And now I'm going to close my round, and I'm just going to slip stitch. And then I'm going to chain one, and I am just going to fasten off, just leaving a semi-long tail. Pull this up, and then grab your darning needle. So to close this, we are just going to go through each front loop on every stitch, and we're going to pull the needle going from the inside to the outside. So just insert your needle and pull it through like this. And I like to count as I'm doing this so that I know I got every stitch. So we just have 6 stitches. And now put your finger right here under the yarn and then pull this tight. And this is going to close the hole. And now insert your needle through the middle of the hole. And then you're going to bring it out at a random point nearby. And then we can pull this again to tighten it even more. And then I'm going to make a little knot right beside where my yarn is, just to secure this more. So I'm just going to grab any like nearby piece of yarn that I can, like that, and then slide this through. And then we're going to make a loop. So grab this loop to secure it, put your needle through the loop, pull it tight, and then right near the knot, I'm going to insert my needle, and I'm going to pull it through to a random point out here. And then I'm going to cut this yarn. Okay, before I get back to the regular video, I just wanted to show you the difference of how this looks. So this is when I did just a regular decrease. I totally forgot to do an invisible decrease, and you can see there is a big difference in how that looks. The invisible decrease looks a lot neater. We are all complete now. Our little acorn is done and our oak leaf, and it is looking so cute. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. If you found this tutorial to be helpful, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. Leave a comment and let me know what color you're going to be making your leaves. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!